Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Dad Verb Podcast, episode number 2. My name is Andrew, and I'm joined by my good friend, Ben Brown. How you doing, Ben?
What's going on, Andrew?
This week's episode. Oh, sorry, you just asked me a question. I just rolled into it. No, I'm doing great. I'm doing well.
No, it's more of a hey, I'm here.
I know. There's a lot of the hey, what's going on, and then that just means hello, and it don't respond to me. That's pretty much rhetorical. So, no, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. But for those who are listening, we've got a fun episode for you guys. We're gonna be talking about 3 things here. If you don't know who Marie Kondo is, she was a home organizing sensation a couple years back who coined the phrase "spark joy" when getting rid of stuff. She asked the question, "Do you spark joy?" Anyway, she had this whole method of like cleaning your home, and she basically fessed up to the fact that her method doesn't work with kids. So that's going to be a fun topic for us right there. We're going to also discuss embracing the ideology of child-free neighborhoods, no screaming kids, and then talking about whether or not your spouse should or shouldn't be your best friend. The answer might not be as obvious. So we'll dive into that, but first, let's catch up in this last week because we did episode 1 and then we straight up ghosted for a week. And in that time, we found out that we became the number 4 parenting podcast in Brazil.
Yeah, we are big. We are big in Brazil,
and we don't even speak Portuguese. So what?
No, I don't know how that happened.
I don't know how that happened.
I wonder about the validity of that email. But
yeah, I got this email.
Okay.
Got this weird email from some company that I guess they do podcast stats, and they're like, hey, by the way, these are your stats. And you're this rank in this country, this rank in this country. I'm like, that cannot be possible because we're only 1 episode in and we have no clue what we're doing.
1 episode in, we're number 4 in Brazil. I mean, it can really only go up from there, right?
Seriously. And it just so happened that I was, this past week, I was freelancing for a company that has roots in Brazil. And I texted Ben this, and I was wearing literally a Brazilian World Cup jersey. So it was just funny how the timing of that.
You're all Braziled out. You're working for a Brazilian-based company. I mean, you're wearing a Brazilian jersey. We're number 4 in Brazil. I'm coming for that number 1 spot. I want to be number 1 parenting podcast in Brazil. That's my goal.
Do you hear that, Brazil? We're coming for you, Brazilian parenting
podcasters. I want to see the downloads. Are there Brazilian parenting podcasts? Now I have to do research.
I don't know what's out there, but apparently there's not very much. So we're number 4.
For us to be number 4, there's not much.
Man, but this past week, I was gone. I was working quite a bit. So that kind of is the reason why we're a little late. We want this to be a weekly podcast. A little late here, but yeah, we do hope to have this a weekly consistent thing. But yeah, it's been a busy week. I left on a Monday out of Dallas, and it just so happened that Dallas was hit with a big ice storm, and that ice storm pretty much fell all over Dallas a mere hours after I took off and left to sunny Florida. And then I was there in Florida for 3 straight days. It was grueling, though. I will say it was. I was working 18-hour days, 3 straight. I messed up my body, and then we were afraid whether or not we were actually going to make it back home to Dallas on Thursday. It seemed like everything, the weather was going to clear up. It was getting warmer. And basically when all the ice kind of melted and the weather started getting good, our plane landed and I was back home. So there was there's a horrible weather period
so that I literally managed to leave.
Yeah.
Your wife and 3 kids.
Yeah. And that's what I'm
for Florida. As soon as the ice storm started, and then as soon as it was over, you were like, hey, guys, I'm back.
Basically, and my wife...
That's amazing.
...is an absolute trooper because she had to deal with... Because all the roads were closed. No one did anything. Everything was closed. Do anything. So it felt like quarantine. It felt like 2020 all over again, except it was just her and 3 kids instead of 2 kids at the time. Her and 3 kids trapped at home without me. So that...
People See, here's my problem too, is people like to make fun of the South. So I live in South Carolina, you're in Texas. Mm-hmm. People like to make fun of the South when oh, it snows and everything closes down, or it snows and there's an ice storm and everything shuts down for days and days and days. Yeah. And growing up in upstate New York, I used to think the same thing. I thought it was hilarious that like the South would just shut down every time there was a cold snap.
Yeah.
But what I've realized is there is zero equipment to take care of anything. So when it ices over, when it snows, when it does any kind of wintry weather, you just have to wait for it to melt. Like that's it. So you're just stuck inside for like 3, 4, 5 days until it literally gets warm enough to melt.
100%. Yeah, northern cities like budget that into they factor that into like how they operate. So like I used to live in Salt Lake City and in Utah and stuff, and like snow was just a thing, right? It's like anytime there was any sort of snow or whatever, like you had the trucks out salting, putting salt down, and that's just how they operated. In Dallas, it's just it's not a thing. So when anything, what's that?
They spray salt water on the roads here.
Oh yeah,
they do what's called brining. So they just go out with big tanker trucks and spray salt water on the roads because there's not enough like rock salt to actually put it out.
I mean, hey,
and it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything.
Oh, doesn't it?
It does zero. I don't know why they do it. It doesn't make any sense.
Oh no. Yeah, the southern states are just not equipped like the northern states are, and it is comical, but it's and Southerners just don't know how to drive in bad condition. I've learned, especially here in Dallas,
they never see it. They never see it. I can't imagine having grown up in the South and then attempting to drive in snow.
No, and then
it doesn't exist.
And they've got like these big lifted trucks with huge wheels, and they're like, "It's fine. I can just go through anything." It's totally cool. It's like, no, you can't. You still have to drive careful, man.
Two-wheel drive is still two-wheel drive if you're not experienced in driving in slippery conditions. Because I mean, even down here, like the roads get slick just when it rains. And you have people crashing off the roads just in rain, and let alone, put a little bit of snow on the road, and everybody's in the ditch. Everybody's in a ditch. Dude, but I am glad to hear it sounds like Katie and the kids made it through okay.
They made it through. I'm going to have to figure out a way to like book a massage or something like that for her, because that was, I had a hard 3 days, but 3 days with kids trapped inside, no way out. That was,
I saw a couple of Instagram stories looking at a beach. So, 18-hour days are tough, but you walked outside to the ocean and a beach in a t-shirt.
I did. So it was tough. Boy, I was literally looking at the Atlantic Ocean, like right outside my hotel window. So
yeah,
I was like,
what a setting to be in to have to work, right? That's not too shabby.
Oh man, leading up to that trip though was really stressful. What we need is a weekly counter of if our families are healthy, if there's no sickness involved. It'd be a miracle if we make it 1 week without talking about sickness, because leading up to the trip, our oldest, he came down with flu A and strep at the same time. And like it hit him like a ton of bricks, man. And he was just like out, and we felt horrible. And I'm like, dude, I'm contracted to do this job in Florida. Like I cannot, and it's a lot of money. He's like, we need the money. And like, I cannot get sick, dude. I can't. So he basically quarantined, and we were like worried about like me getting sick, but also Katie getting sick, because like she's alone for 3 days with these kids.
Yeah.
And even, without the weather, being in consideration, being sick and having to parent alone is an absolute nightmare. Like I can't even think of many hard things outside of that.
One kid alone is hard enough. I cannot imagine trying to parent two active boys.
Right.
And then your youngest, right? Like just 3 kids at all who, they still, amazing thing is like kids still have to eat even when you're sick. Like you can't just not feed them. And so you still got to do some parenting stuff.
All the demands and rigors are still there. It doesn't matter. Like, it's you're sick, doesn't matter. So it's, leading up to that trip was tough, but luckily we stayed healthy all throughout. And as I was leaving, he was recovering, he was getting better. So that was tough, but and then I come back, and then, my other son, he starts spiking a fever. So we're like, awesome. Great. So
everybody's sick.
Just never revolving stops. Door. Yeah, it is what it is. But how about you, man? You've been good?
Yeah, good. We had a really good week. Just as we said the last podcast episode, we are getting ready for the arrival of our second. So our daughter is slated to arrive on this Friday, which feels insane. It feels like it's it's flown by, but it hasn't. It's really weird. We feel prepared and unprepared all at once. But the good news is we're finally kind of getting the last little things together. We're starting to get her room together, which, I mean, she's not going to be in for probably 6 months or so at least.
Yeah.
So, but it's still nice to have that space complete and kind of get her artwork hung up and get her room all settled. So when we're ready to move her in there, there's not a lot of work to do.
It's so exciting, man.
And then the rest of that was just kind of, getting our son prepared for it, getting him through daycare, getting all of our like childcare stuff set up so that we know, our kids taken care of while we're in the hospital for a couple days. And then just packing and, kind of fingers crossed she doesn't decide to arrive early. That's sort of our big, like, kind of lurking panic right now is every time my wife sits back in the seat in the car and goes, I'm like, oh, is this it? I was like, is that a contraction? Is that a contraction? Like I'm constantly annoying her and asking her if she's okay. I'm like, are you okay? Are you okay? Does it hurt? Are you all right? Is there anything I can do? She's like, just leave me alone. I'm just uncomfortable. She's at that like that stage where just like everything hurts and she's uncomfortable constantly.
Yeah,
like
man,
I feel bad for her, and we're so excited, but it's kind of getting down to the wire where it's it's going to be nice to have her out, and our son's excited to meet her, and really excited to be a big brother, which is going to be a different change, but I think is going to be really good for him.
We were really scared about that when we welcomed our second, because we were like, how is Henry going to like adapt to this change? So I think we did the thing, and maybe it's dumb, but like, I think we like heard about it on Instagram or something like that, where like the baby comes and when our oldest meets the baby for the first time at the hospital, like we give him a gift, and we're like, oh, it's from the baby,
Yeah.
We're just like,
Oh, we're doing the same thing.
Are you okay?
Yeah,
it's
so
like a
we're not
peace
doing a
offering.
hospital meet though. Yeah, so we're not doing a hospital meet. We're gonna wait until we get home.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
we're gonna do home, and then they were like, of course, you read as much as you can about this because you're like trying not to mess up the kid you already have.
Right.
That's your biggest fear, is like having another kid and messing up the one you already have.
Yeah.
And it's really just like, okay, when you come home, you greet your child first without the baby.
Yes.
And then you introduce them like to the baby. So it's like they've missed you. They get to see you first. It's not, mom and dad walking in and going, oh, here's your new sibling. Like, get out of my way. So they don't feel like they're kind of stuck in the back seat, which, it's probably plenty of chance that they will at some point. But at least if you can make that initial meeting really nice and exciting, hopefully that'll carry through for the next couple of years or rest of their lives.
Oh man, yeah, I remember that moment was because what we did was I went and got Henry first downstairs, and it was and Katie was in her bed holding Colin up in the room, and brought Henry up. So yeah, I did kind of like the initial greet to like soften him up and like, okay, hey, you're gonna meet your new brother, and yeah, I think it worked out great. It was fine, but with our third, with Sienna, we did it more like that. We didn't do the hospital greet. We just we brought her home, and we kind of did that same approach where we kind of primed them, and it was just like me and Katie first, and then Sienna came in, and we had the help of in-laws and stuff like that kind of helped us with that whole process. But they took to her really quickly. It was great. They were holding her within seconds, and they've
That's awesome.
They've enjoyed being big brothers to her, and it's really cool to see two boys be big brothers, protective big brothers of their little baby sister, like already. And they're 5 and 3, but they already have that protective instinct built in. So it's really cool to see that, and how gentle they are with her. So yeah,
that's what we're hoping for. So we got a big week ahead. So I will do my best to continue to be on the podcast. But
I know, right?
I may not make any sense in the next episode. Next time we record, I might be just completely nonsensical and exhausted, but I think I actually do want to try and at least get some podcasts in, because I think it'll be cool to share that of like, what's it like to bring that second kid home? Like, what is that experience like? Because it's almost like real time.
Yeah. It's raw.
That real time baby, like newborn stage, which
100%.
It's going to be cool.
I did that vlog, like after our second, like I vlogged every minute of like coming home.
I
of,
saw
like,
that
what
one.
I did. And
I remember looking at you and just realizing how exhausted you were, because you can like feel it through the screen.
oh yeah, I mean, I was exhausted. And also like, it's one thing when you're just like living through exhaustion, but it's another when you're also like trying to like edit a YouTube video in your head and try to capture content while you're actually being a parent to a
Yeah,
newborn.
let's keep a storyline in your head while you're trying to keep a tiny human alive.
Oh man, but that was I think it'll be great to you know, in the coming episodes to have like that raw, like I'm a new dad, I'm tired, this is what I'm going through, because you forget those moments, you kind of block those out in a way. And we you know, and we have a, for those who aren't aware, we've got like a father figured community, which is like our private Discord community for those who either opt into it or they get free access to it if they buy one of our courses that are designed for like first year dads. And it's a place where you can like ask questions, stuff like that. Ben just joined it, and I'm sure he'll be chiming in. But yeah, there are guys who are actively like right now who are like in Mexico who, hey, this is our baby, and like this is cool. Like people are having babies in real time, but they're asking these questions, and there are moments where I'm just kind of like, how did I approach this again in like week 2? Like I don't remember. So yeah, luckily we have built out a course like that, and there are other guys who are kind of like, oh, and they'll chime in with different bits of advice. So Ben, I mean, if you did need advice, just go to the group, go to the Discord. They're guys who are there, who are down to help. So
that community is awesome. It's great to see how many guys are in there, just not only sharing those like first moments of fatherhood, which are so special, but sharing and giving each other advice. Like just, what do I carry? What do I do? What should I buy? I don't understand this. I'm scared about this. I'm excited about this. Like, how did you guys experience this? Like that's such a thing that I think a lot of guys are missing, that they don't get to share with people, or, you know, they don't get to talk through those, you know, whether it's fears or excitement or whatever from that sort of dad's perspective. So it's really cool to see a community that's doing something special like that.
it's definitely a cool community. I wouldn't say it's like the most active, like a mom group, but it doesn't need to be. You know, they're guys who, you know, maybe once, twice a day pop in, pop out.
You get out what you put in.
Exactly. It's great. It's great. So Ben, do you want to dive into our first topic of conversation here?
Yeah, let's kick in.
All right, man. So Marie Kondo, talked about at the top of the podcast here. Marie Kondo is a kind of world-renowned home organizer, right? She's got a best-selling book. There was a whole Netflix series that really popped off with her, where again she really coined the phrase like, does something spark joy? And if it does, you keep it. If it doesn't, you toss it, and then you thank it for what it did, and then it's like a whole thing. And still to this day, my wife like said, you know, oh, this sparks joy. I love this thing. It sparks joy. But she kind of recently in an interview talked about how that whole process of keeping your home clean and organized, and really it comes from like a very minimalistic perspective, right? How that methodology is really challenged and kind of impossible when you have kids. And a lot of people jumped on that bandwagon. They was like, oh, see, it's not feasible. And then it's like, your whole system is crap, blah, blah, blah. But what's interesting is that these people who are certified in her method, I think it's
like Kondo Mar or something like that.
Yeah, it's something like that.
It's like a hybrid of her name.
Yeah. It's like Marie Kondo, something like that. People who are like certified in that really came to the defense of it. And and we'll get into it, but they, you know, said, you know, it's not so much about like, sorry, you can't keep a clean home and our method is crap. It's more like, it's about like, how are you able to find joy in your life? And that's kind of the whole thing. And unfortunately, when you have kids, your source of joy is just, it's different. And you kind of in a way have to embrace the mess. But anyway, I'll kick it off to you. Like, what do you think about that article?
Yeah, I think it was really interesting reading through this. So, you know, we kind of got on the Marie Kondo kick for a little while, where I was looking through, especially like clothes and just clutter.
Yeah.
And trying to see if it was something that I really did enjoy. I kind of have this rule in my house that I try to live by, where if I pick something up and I look at it and I say, oh, I forgot I had this. Yeah. Unless it's something that's absolutely necessary that I know I'm going to use again, it's out the door.
Yep. I'm kind of the same way.
But I think this is so interesting because my wife and I have talked about this too, of like, keeping a tidy home. And we're generally not like super messy people, but we're not super organized either. There's clutter. There's just like stuff everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I know like mentally that kind of bothers me a little bit because, I think a cluttered space is kind of a cluttered mind.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do see, and I think this is sort of the point of the article, if you really read into it, is not that she's given up on the idea of a clean home, but that the idea of a clean and tidy home is less important than spending quality time with her. I think she has 3 kids now, and I think the last one she had was in like 2021. And so it's this idea of like levels of joy and fulfillment that you get out of certain things. And so before she had her kids, her ultimate joy was keeping a very tidy, minimal household. She had the time and brain capacity to think about all the things in her home and say, is this something that I really need? Is this something that I enjoy having? And does it have a place in my home?
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, especially with 3 kids, I can't imagine it's like, you don't have the mental capacity or the energy or even, I think, the drive to focus on those things, because the things you're focusing on are my kids happy and healthy? Are they learning? Are we spending quality time together?
Right.
And I think that's really important to take away from this article. It's not that she's like giving up on this. It's just that in this season of her life, being super minimal and being completely decluttered and completely tidy is not the most important thing.
Right. An interesting thing about myself was there are a lot of difficult parts of parenting for me, but this was actually one of the things that really like I struggle with personally, because I am a very like organized person. Like everything has their place. Like if you point to a cabinet in the house, I firmly believe that like if you can't tell me what's in there, then you shouldn't be in there. You don't need it. Just get rid of it. Like I know where everything is, where everything should be. And we try this thing where we're at the top of the year, you flip all of your clothes in on your rack, like your hangers to face the other way.
Hanger flip.
Yeah,
if you don't use it, you get rid of it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
So has
that worked for you?
Oh yeah. I like organize my closet by like color. It's like the whole Roy G. Biv format. Like, dude, I'm weird.
We're getting some real insight into like how you live your life. I think this is interesting.
Yeah, dude. Like like my closet is like really like lean. Like everything that's in there, I wear it often. I just did a bit of a purge where I'm like, dude, I don't like this shirt. It's just a little tight. I gained weight. That's just this reality of it. I'm not wearing the shirt anymore. It's out. It's gone. So, or like a lot of those shirts I've had for years anyway. I just needed a refresh. I've bought a bunch of built stuff. So I'm on that built shirt train now. But so, I've lived really like organized, and just having kids, especially 3 now, it's completely challenged that. Like it's always a mess, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you're staying on top of it. It's just really, really difficult. And the time, and it's just what's hard is the amount of time that you need to put into like cleaning the house, the game room, the kitchen, all that stuff. That's time that's like you're pulling away from time like that you're spending with your kids, so that you can clean and organize your home. That's just inevitably going to get messy again. So now that said, it's I'm sure people hear that and be like, so what, you just live in filth? Like, no, we don't. Like, we have a routine where every night we certainly, we tidy up. My wife's doing it right now while I'm talking to you. But
reset. Yeah,
exactly.
Reset.
And that's our reset for sure.
Yeah, that's what we try to do in our house too, as much as we can. I think, again, it's balance, right? It's like in parenting, you seek balance. In your life, you have to seek balance too. And there may be things that would bother you normally, or would be something that would, make you upset or make you feel disorganized or whatever the case is. But, you look at it and say, okay, in the grand scheme of raising children, is this really that important, right? Are they happy? Are they healthy? Are they fed? Do they know that they're loved and that they're safe? And once those things are met, then it's kind of everything else. All right, let's try and organize just for your own sanity and your own efficiency.
Right.
But it ultimately it's not all. It's what you choose to focus on and what you choose to put value in.
Right. But now what's hard though is like you also need to take those opportunities to like instill some level of respect toward like space and like where this goes here with your kids, right? Mm-hmm. You need to have those teaching moments. It's just like a matter of how hard you push it. Like it's just not sustainable to like do it every minute of every day. Like, hey, once you take it out, you need to put it right back. Like I've tried that. It totally backfired. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't work. They just get mad.
Nah. Yeah, and then they get mad and then it becomes a power struggle. It's like a whole thing. But I want to quote from the article. It's called the KonMari consultant. That's the people who put in a certain amount of hours, tidy hours, into becoming like a certified like KonMari Method expert.
Like 1,500 hours or something. Right?
It's a lot of tidying hours, man.
That's
it's a lot
of like cleaning things.
Right, exactly, and just like organizing. Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't know that I've done that in my life. Like I'm 35. I don't know if I'd put in 1,500 hours of cleaning in my entire life.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But in response to a lot of people who are saying like you're this whole like minimalist cleaning method, it's BS. This is what one of their experts says. It said she was never asking us to create perfectly organized spaces. She was asking us to identify the things that truly spark joy to us on a personal level and to commit to living a more joyful life. Those core principles haven't changed. So a lot of people like to associate her method with cleanliness and clean countertops and all that. And to some extent, that's because that stuff does have, I believe, a positive mental impact. But I think the bigger picture is, I think, and you hit on this too, is are things serving a purpose? Are they serving the purpose of bringing joy into your life? And I think some of the things that are just on the floor, they do. Yeah, they do. Now, another thing is that there actually is research. There's research that shows that mess is good developmentally for your littles. Like they actually need to get messy because that is how they learn how to explore. It factors into problem solving. There's actual research that says that. So, I mean, when you do kind of have this authoritarian, strict, like, no, everything needs to be clean, you're actually doing them a disservice, and it actually is stunting their development. Yeah, I'm sorry, I cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, it's okay. Kids need to know how to organize. And they don't learn that unless things are disorganized. And you have to think that their brains are not wired that way. And so in order for them to learn, they need to have the mess out, they need to explore, and then they'll start to pick out the sort of logical patterns, like blocks, like sorting blocks by color, or by, like, we have soft blocks and we have hard blocks. There's two different buckets. And until he kind of dumps all the blocks out on the floor and then figures out why are these two things different, he's not making that connection. If I just say, okay, these go in here, and this is why, he's not really making that sort of neural connection to say, oh, because these blocks, even though they're all different colors, are the same type. Like they're the hard plastic blocks, and then these are like the foam blocks. So like you said, that idea of having mess and then being able to go through and categorize it and organize it ultimately does help them develop. We've seen that in our son, of like his ability to take things and kind of categorize things now, because we let him put it all out and they say, okay, now it's time to clean it up. Let's figure out where everything goes.
So do you have, you personally, do you have like dedicated spaces or like a yes space? Right. Like I've heard that, especially in like the Montessori world. Have you guys like have dedicated spaces where like this is meant to be a play area where it is supposed to get messy, to kind of relatively, I don't know, contain how far the mess goes? How do you
like our upstairs loft is like our playroom.
Right.
And that's where the majority of his toys go. He has some toys downstairs, but we try to kind of contain it to that space because, we can gate it off. We know there's not going to be a ton of people going up and down there, and it's a space for him to if he wants to throw his blocks around and get crazy, it's fine. Like, there's not a bunch of breakable stuff up there. We keep it pretty minimal. But that's been helpful for him to have that space. And then, if there's other kids over, they can all go up there and play, and we know that they're safe and they're sort of contained in an area. And then the adults can kind of socialize downstairs if they want to.
Right. We today is actually a good example that, like, we have a very similar situation where we've got an upstairs kind of game room area, and that's kind of where a majority of the play is. And we have this 5x5 cubby hole thing that we got from IKEA, and in those cubby holes are like these little pull-out cube, like drawers or something like that. But
like those little storage bins.
Yeah, exactly. Those storage bins. Why could I not think of the phrase storage bins? So complex, Ben.
You spent 3 days in Florida.
Brain
just lost it all.
So, like, in each of those bins, like, I label things, man. I'm weird. I label things, but like I have like a label like, this is where balls go. This is where the action figures go. This is where the blocks go. This is where, and our boys know where everything is. Where everything is supposed to go. Is it clean 5-6 days out of the week? No, but we will, at least once a week, be like, hey boys, let's get this all cleaned up so that, we can just kind of reset, and we have them do it. We don't do it, right? We have them do it, and they know where everything goes. Like the fake food toys that go in their kitchen, they go in a very specific spot. And right now it's actually clean up there. If I were to take my camera up there right now, it's really clean. They did a great job, and everything is where it is. Right. Tomorrow's going to be an absolute mess because they just,
Yeah, I mean, they come through like tornadoes and rip everything apart. Right. Because that's just what they do.
That's what they do. But they have it instilled like, okay, this does have a space. It's just, Wednesday is when it sits on the floor, though. So that, it's just going to sit there. But, it's, it's really cool that they definitely know where things go, and I think there's a sense of importance there, and that's just how we operate, man.
But I mean, that's the thing, right? Kids are messy, kids are loud, and I think it makes a good segue into our second topic that we wanted to talk about, which was saw this really interesting article about, I think it was an Australian TikToker named Baby Soja. I think that was her screen name. And she shared this story, this experience of her swimming and being interrupted by children at a pool, right? Screaming kids, it's at a pool, it's summertime. Now, do we really think that screaming kids at a pool is like a big deal? As a parent, no, doesn't really bother me. At one point in my life, it probably would have, but what it did is it brought up, through her post, she sort of brought up this idea of, if there's a space meant for an adult, is it possible to have a child-free neighborhood? And it was really interesting to look at some of the opinions that came out of this, because there were a lot of people who were parents and not parents who agreed with her, saying, yes, I think there should be a child-free space or child-free neighborhoods. It was really interesting because it's like, you see all these like 55 and up communities where like, I can't live there unless I'm 55 or older, which is like kind of the same concept, right? You're keeping the young people out because you want a nice, quiet neighborhood. Right. So I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this, on, obviously you have kids now, but at some point in the future, or if you could go back to your younger self, would you want to live in a kid-free neighborhood?
So here's the thing. For me, I personally never had an issue. Like, I've never been like, I don't think I was ever annoyed by kids. Like, they're screaming too much or being too loud. I'm like really annoyed. But her idea, like the core idea of it, I'm not opposed to it. Like, because honestly, I think that's something that we as parents could also leverage. Oh, you're talking about like neighborhood free. I mean, I'm not talking about just kid-free neighborhood. I'm talking about like things outside, like kid-free anything that's not centered around like alcohol and nightlife, because I feel like anything's like just adults only. It's like nightlife, like, I don't know, kid-free restaurants. I was like, I don't see a problem with that, because like it's also something that I can leverage, and I think that's great because kids are annoying. I think it's totally fine. I think the thing that just bugged me was just the way she delivered it. She just sounded so entitled and kind of just
so bitter,
bratty,
so bitter.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. She just sounded really bitter, but like that aside, I think the core idea is fine. Yeah, like a kid-free neighborhood, I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, if those existed, I think that would certainly be beneficial. And if they're, kid-free, it's anything out there, I'm sure there's value in that. But yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I know, like, so my wife and I have done a fair amount of traveling. We've done, some resorts and stuff like that. And, in some of your resorts, you have like the family side, and you have the adults only side, which, to your point, a lot of it is still centered around kind of nightlife and kind of going out and drinking and all that. But the big plus is that you have adults only restaurants, you have adults only pools where, it's a little more relaxed. And it's not every pool, because there's some, like rager party pools. Yeah. But there are a lot of pools that are just really quiet. You can go and just like have a drink and swim around and not really be bothered by anybody. So as a parent, I can see the value in adults only spaces. I get it. Like, kids are loud, they're chaotic, they need a lot all the time.
Right.
And that chaos is like one of my favorite things in the world, to just live in that insanity of raising young kids, because it's like you never know what you're going to get. It's always changing, it's always shifting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can get, I would think some maybe younger me, early 20s me might enjoy more a space that was for adults only. Right. If I was on like a honeymoon, like when my wife and I went on our honeymoon, we went to like an adults only place because it made sense for us. We didn't want to be bothered by screaming kids running around. Yeah. Now that I'm a parent, I'm like, hey, you would all love my kid if you just got to know him.
Right.
But I can understand, and it sort of brings up the idea too, like, now that I have kids, I have more respect for people who choose not to have kids.
Yeah.
I have more of an understanding of it, because it's
100%.
like, and even if it's not for the reasons that, I might agree with or whatnot, I get it. Like, it's incredibly hard. It's a huge financial, obligation, right? Kids are super expensive. Everything about them is expensive.
Exactly.
And then just time and energy. And if you don't want to be surrounded by that, either you don't have your kids, and maybe that's how you choose to live your life. But I think the challenge then is that you don't want to make it so that there are public places where I am obligated not to take my child. So that's kind of the thing, is like, then do you make these people pay the premium to be kid-free, to be in like a kid-free zone?
So, all right. So to go back real quick, on the point that you just talked about like people who choose not to have kids and the respect there, and you know what, there are some people who make that decision because they know that they are unable to provide the right mental effort or financially just the best environment for the kids, and they're like, I'm not going to do this kid any justice, man. This is not for me. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to raise this kid right. And they're making that decision. I'm like, you know what? Props to you, man. That's cool. I've got 3 kids, happy with our decision. But like, for those who chose not to, I'm like, hey, man, that's all you, bro. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that.
I get it.
But now, for reference, if you haven't seen this video, this is a girl who's like, what, 20 something, like 22, something like that, right?
Like early 20s, I think.
Yeah. So she's definitely a non-parent who's just like really bugged and annoyed, right? But now, a lot of people are coming at this from the lens of a person who's like a non-parent and how kids are annoying. But you really have to understand, like, for us as parents, right? We are, we're cooped up in a house all day. We're dealing with sicknesses. We're mentally drained. These kids are, and they're trapped inside. They just want to burst outside and just go have fun. So we take them to a pool, right? Mm-hmm. And now you guys are annoyed because our kids are getting out the energy. It was like, I can't even take my kids to a pool now. So on the flip side, there's that where it's like, like, why can't I take my kids to a pool? Now, granted, I think what she was referring to though is there was like a kiddie pool, and then there was like a pool that was like for adults with lanes, right? And the kids like didn't stay in the kiddie side; they went and they were screaming and doing whatever in like the lanes where adults were. I was an area designated for adults. Right. They were probably playing too much Marco Polo, and she got pissed. So I think that's
that to me is like kind of on the parents too. Like there's a there's a line that parents need to draw to say, okay, let's kind of respect the space of others, and it's something that we tell our son all the time. Like when we walk into a store, there's a lot of breakable stuff. We like to go to like a lot of kind of smaller like boutique, like locally owned places if we can. And the first thing we say when we walk in the store, as I look at my son, and I said, we need to remember, we respect other people's spaces. Mm-hmm. And so that's a thing that we talk about all the time. And what that means is by respecting other people's spaces, we're going to try not to scream. We're going to try, he's 2, so if he throws a temper tantrum, it happens. Yeah. But that means we keep our hands to ourselves and we look, but we don't touch. And if we want to touch something, we ask. Mm-hmm. Right. So there's sort of this whole thing where we say, and no matter where we go, if we're in a restaurant, if we're in, at a pool, we say we respect other people's spaces. So we try to make an effort to learn those kind of social norms.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Because they're going to need to know that anyways. Yeah. And balance that out with like letting a kid be a kid and letting them run around. But I think to your point, like what you were getting to is some parents just sort of let their kids run wild because they might just be drained.
Yeah, and they're just aloof, and they just let their kids just go. And that's where like, I see, as a parent, I'm not like that, or at least I like to think that I'm not like that, right? Like I like to think that I have enough self-awareness to be like, yo, my kids are a disturbance. I need to wrangle them. I need to reel them back in here, okay? Because for me, like being like that, like that's where I kind of like take offense to this girl. I'm like, my kid's not doing that. Like he knows how to respect real space. He's not going crazy. But I do side with her in this case because if I didn't have kids and stuff like that, I know that a lot of parents out there are just kind of like, oh, we're at the pool. Y'all do whatever you want. I'm chilling here with a mimosa. Okay. Mommy and daddy, you leave us alone. And they let their kids go crazy. And that's annoying.
That drives me nuts.
So it's actually less on the kids and more about it drives everyone nuts. And it's less about the kids and more about the parents just not, having a watchful eye and just taking, and I get it. We all need a break. Like I get that, but like we do need to be conscious of like what our kids are doing around the pool, especially if they're little. Like it's a pool, man. They can drown. Like you gotta watch them.
It's still
seriously.
Dangerous. Seriously, you can't just like shut off. Like that's the biggest thing, right? Is you can't, and that's why
you want to.
You want to. I mean, I'm sure there are times you just want to like check out and not do anything, and like, oh yeah, everybody else will kind of keep an eye on my kid.
Yeah,
but that is what kind of gives parents and young children sort of a bad name. Is the parents that do check out and then just refuse to, reprimand their kids, set boundaries. Again, refuse to teach them to respect other people's spaces. I think that's always an important lesson because that's going to carry through, into adulthood.
Yeah. And, we always talk about how like vacations for us have changed so much, like, especially like a beach trip. Like a beach trip is not a fun, relaxing beach trip anymore.
No.
Because I would have loved to just like sit on a beach and read a book, right? But no, we're sitting on a beach playing defense. And I make it sound like a bad thing, but like, yeah, I mean, like we're enjoying the beach, sure, but we're always have a watchful eye. It's the parents that like still resume like the life of like, oh no, it's just like when we were, kid free back then. Kids are doing whatever. We're kicking back, reading a book. With older kids, sure, but like with littles, man, no, you still have to play the defense and watch them and wrangle them in. So I think that's, I feel like her anger, as much as it was with the kids in that moment, I think her anger should have been more with the parents being like, yo, you should reel your kids in a little bit more. Right. It's just hard. How do you say that? It's
right. They weren't setting the boundary. They weren't setting the example, which is usually where you see, kids losing it in restaurants and all that stuff. It's like, it happens and you do your best. But, we went to, we rented a cabin for New Year's Eve. Mm-hmm. We went to this really nice restaurant right on New Year's Eve. There's a ton of people having this great dinner.
Yeah.
And my son got tired and started to just throw a tantrum.
Yeah.
And so out of respect for the other people in the restaurant, I picked him up. I took him outside so that we could sit and talk and calm down and figure things out and feel a little bit better before we went back into the restaurant to enjoy the rest of our meal. Because I think it's important, again, to respect other people. Like, they're having a meal that they paid a lot of money for. I'm there with my 2-year-old at 7:00 at night and trying to have a nice meal as well. And I think it's just respectful of everybody else. Like, I'm the one that chose to have a kid. I need to make sure that they understand where they fit into that space and into that spectrum, because if we don't, then they're never going to learn that lesson, and they're going to continue to just sort of do whatever they want in whatever space they're in.
Yeah, we had a really similar situation where it just happened recently too. We have a lot of friends nearby with kids very similar age, and there are a couple ice cream parlors that we really enjoy going to. One place is called Jeremiah's. It's in McKinney, Texas. It's delicious. It's amazing. But we went in there, and there's 4 families. So it's me and Katie, our 3 kids, and then a bunch of other kids, and there are a bunch of other families in there as well. But when these kids get together, like, they get loud. They start playing with each other. They start getting loud. And so we're all chatting. We're just in our own little world, and these kids start getting super loud. And some of the other parents are just kind of like, I don't know, just letting it happen, you know? For me, I'm always trying to tell, like, Henry, like, dude, you need be the leader, not the follower. Tell him to calm down, right? He's not gonna listen to me, of course not. But I'm trying
he's
here.
Fired up like that.
Nuh-uh. But then I catch some shade from, like, other people in this little ice cream shop, and they're just quick little glances. I'm like, okay. So I like tell everyone, like,
you can tell people are getting
we need
mad.
to go outside, like, right now, and, like, let them do this outside, because, like, we are a disturbance. Like, this is like not acceptable, right? And it's annoying. You don't want to have to do that, but, like, you got to do it as a parent. Some people out there, and maybe if you're listening to this podcast, you're watching this on YouTube, you might be guilty of this too. You're just aloof. You're just like, whatever, man. I'm here to just kick back and relax and enjoy a friggin' ice cream. My kids do whatever, but, like, you just have to be.
I can't do it. I don't know if it was, like, how I was raised, or if it's, like, some deep-seated psychological need to not be judged by other people. I don't know what it is, or if it's just, like, societal expectation. I have no idea, but I can't do it. I can't, like, just sit there and let my kids scream and cause a disturbance and ruin things for other people.
I'm very similar way, but I think it's because on a deeper level, I think I have an issue with, like, I will go. All right, so here's the thing. We're getting a level deeper here with Andrew. Okay, I have trouble asking for help. I will go so far out of my way and make myself so get myself into such a point of total discomfort, as long as it doesn't inconvenience you. Right. And that's just how I've always been. Like, I don't want to ask someone to do something if it's going to inconvenience them. I could do it myself. It's stressful. I don't really have the time, but I'll figure it out because I don't want to inconvenience them. Right. I think that's deep down how I am. Now, now when we parallel that with kids, I don't want my kids to inconvenience them for whatever reason. And I have this thing of, like, if I'm inconveniencing someone, I have an issue. Right. And it's a sucky problem to have, like, to not ask for help. Like, for me, like, I'm trying to scale a business with Dad Verb and stuff like that, and I don't ask for help. I don't know how to leverage help properly, and there's issues, right? Man, I should stop talking, but, like,
ask for help. Yeah,
but deep down, that's why I am the way I am with our kids. Like, I just don't like being a disturbance to other people. But you know,
I totally get that, because I feel I relate to that 100%. And I don't know exactly what it is or where it comes from, but I have this, like, it's almost like I'm always keeping an eye on the people around me to see how I'm impacting them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because and it's more because I feel like there are, you know, like we said, there are parents who don't do that, and then sort of kids get a bad name. They get this idea of, like, kids are just loud, annoying, and they're messy. And they can be. I mean, they're kids. It's not, you know, they're not going to be perfect. They're still learning. They're meant to be loud and messy and crazy. But I think, again, we just sort of, as parents, need to step in and say, like, this is what the expectation is. This is how we are expected to behave. And then these are the, you know, the sort of the rules of the road, right? And we kind of need to stick to that in order to be productive members of society.
It's on us. It's on us 100% to set that example. So if you guys are watching this on YouTube, comment your thoughts on this, on the Marie Kondo situation, not situation, but the Marie Kondo topic, your thoughts on having child-free neighborhoods. Are you in line with us? You disagree with us? Just share your thoughts, right? Because parenting isn't a linear journey. It's very widespread. There are different thoughts and opinions on this. So please share your thoughts. If you're listening on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, which we are at now, I don't think you can leave comments, but leave us a great review. We'd really appreciate that and help us grow to number 3 in Brazil. That would be amazing.
Number 3 by next week.
Dude, let's go. Let's go. But let's segue into the final topic that we have here, and that's the topic of whether or not your spouse is your best friend. So fatherly.com. Now, I realize that this was actually posted a while back. I think they published this article back in 2018.
Yeah,
the bottom of the article said that, yeah. But they basically laid out reasons as to why your spouse shouldn't be considered your best friend, because the relationship for a friend is different for a relationship of a marriage. And I read through the article, and I don't know how better to phrase this, but I just thought it was a bad take. I just thought it was so dumb. I thought this
was a terrible take.
I thought it was so dumb. I don't know. Fatherly has they're hit or miss for me. They have good articles, they have bad articles, but this was just a bad take because my wife is my best friend. I want to spend all the time with her. It's just how it is, and I cherish that relationship that I have. But Ben, what are your thoughts on what the article was the points that they were trying to make?
Well, so I think the whole thing is really, really interesting. But the article itself, it was really interesting to read through it because they talked about the idea that you can't treat your marriage and your friendships like a best friend the same way. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, but so my wife and I have been together since we were 19. Mm-hmm.
It's been a minute.
So long time. But we were friends before we started dating, right? So we had similar friend circles. We'd kind of go out with the same people. We ran in similar groups. And I think that the basis of any solid marriage starts with a friendship and then generally moves into a relationship and sort of grows from there. And I can't think of anybody else that knows more about me, more about my preferences, my likes, my dislikes, my things I'm fearful of, stuff I'm worried about, my anxieties, my celebrations. There's not a single person except maybe a parent, I guess, that has
I didn't even think my parents know me.
But even then, yeah, I think that transitioned such a long time ago. Once I moved out of the house, right?
Yeah.
She knows everything about me and I know everything about her, and that sort of vulnerability I feel like is very different. That's what I would consider a best friend, is someone who knows that much about you and can kind of speak to those things and
right.
Really kind of, in a relationship, you kind of mold yourself to each other's fears, anxieties, happiness, and you really challenge each other to grow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't really think of anybody that I'm closer with than my wife.
The article tried to define the difference between a friendship and a marriage. And they were friends don't get intertwined financially and they don't live with you. So they're not friends. It's a marriage. I'm
how many friends have borrowed money from you? You're all intertwined financially.
Let me read you a quote real quick. So this is from the article, and it is, quote, "When married, you have each other's parents and siblings as sources of support, or even children." Then they attribute the expert or the professional that said that. Married people tend to have a broader pool of potential supporters. However, it's different. Before I go on, I felt like I had the complete opposite experience because when we got married in those first 3-4 years, we didn't have any friends, right? We didn't have any sort of support at all. Felt like all the friends that we did have weren't at the same stage of life as us anymore. So it just felt like we just couldn't relate to anyone. So I like really had to lean into Katie as like, you are my best friend, because like we just didn't have anyone, we didn't have any support. And when we had kids, like we didn't have any support, and we even had family close by, but it just felt like our family, like just, I don't know. It felt like it was too much of a hassle to ask them to help us. And I don't think they actually wanted to help us. Like, I don't know. It was, so like, that was just another reason for me to really lean into my relationship with my best friend and find strength through her, you know?
Yeah. And that can be really challenging too. Like I think it's interesting where they say you have more of an extended network. And I don't know if this is because of their experience with this, but I know, so like I'm an only child, super close to my mom. And I was really close to my grandparents too. But when we moved to the South, we moved to the Carolinas, it was all my wife's family that was down here. And I can see the point of them saying like you have this sort of extended support network. And I think it's interesting to think of it that way, but it's a different level of relationship. It's a much different level of relationship where I'm not looking at her. I mean, they do help and support and kind of, are involved in our lives, but I don't think it's necessarily the level of support that you're getting in your marriage. Like, it's not this extended support network where I'm looking at it going like, all these people are, here to help me constantly or anything like that. I think they're there if we need it. But everybody's about an hour away. So like, we're not, I would say like super, super involved in each other's lives from like a day-to-day perspective. And so where that comes down is like, really it's you and your spouse that are involved in all the day-to-day stuff, in talking about, again, what your fears and anxieties are, what things are important to you, and making some really incredibly important decisions. I mean, nobody's signing on to a mortgage for a house like lightly. You know what I mean? Like there's very few people I would entangle myself that deeply financially with, especially not from a friendship perspective.
Man, I don't really have much more to say on it other than like, that was just a bad article.
It's a trash take. It really is.
It was a trash take. So what I'll do is in the show notes or the description of the YouTube video, I'll have links to all the articles that we discussed, so that you can just read through it, check it out, and then gather your own thoughts and opinions on it. But let's go ahead and round out this episode with a fun little draft. Last week we drafted the best cereals, and you know what? Like, not enough people voted, but based off the comments, I feel like I kind of won that one. So one comment.
Yeah.
Comment.
My wife actually told me that my cereals were garbage.
Dude,
she came at me after that episode.
So funny, because one comment goes like, "Dude, this dude drafted like nursing home cereals."
Yep, for sure, 100%. I get it. I knew, like, going in, I was like, my cereal taste is bad, but like, this is what I enjoy. I am who I am.
Dude, well, this week we're going to be drafting chips. I haven't, we knew coming into this episode what we were drafting, but I haven't thought about it at all. I'm just coming into this raw here. But I will say, my wife and I, we've played this game a lot, and we've had votes. I love like baked Lay's, baked whatevers, and I drafted those, and I've never lost a draft harder than the chips draft against my wife, because I went like baked Cheetos, baked this and that. Like, what kind of like frou health nut dumb draft is it? And I lost like, I think it was like 85 to 15%. Like, it was so bad. Like, usually it's like somewhat close, like 40, 60.
Shellacking.
Dude, I got spanked in that draft. So like, all I know is that I'm not drafting baked stuff, but it's I do like the baked stuff. Not even for a health reason. I just like the taste. But
do you really?
Oh, I love it. Oh, well, yeah.
See, here's my thing. So I have nursing home cereals. You like terrible baked.
I guess so.
Baked snacks.
I have the terrible baked snack, and then I got myself in even hotter water because you know how those boxes of those bag chips, they come with like the Smart Pop. It's like in a black bag, Smart Pop, like popcorn. I'm like, those are chips, right? because it's with the chips. And they're like, no, that's popcorn. So it's not a chip.
It's like,
I'm like,
technically it doesn't count, but I get it. I do have a very soft spot for like the smart food, like the cheddar smart food popcorn.
That's what I'm talking about. The smart food.
So good.
I love that, but
So
it's
good.
not a chip, even though it does
No.
come sold with chips. So I'm not drafting popcorn, guys. We're drafting chips. This week, I think I have the first pick. You picked first last week,
first
right?
pick.
All right, so we're gonna go 3 picks each. You guys get to vote who makes the best picks. And with my number 1 pick, I don't know. I guess I don't know. I have weird taste. I'm going with Doritos. I love Doritos Triangle. I love the nacho flavor. I love the texture. I love the crunch. I'm feeling Doritos. I think it's a good party chip, and I like that you don't need a dip. Some chips you need a dip, right, to make it good.
True.
You don't need a dip for Doritos.
Doritos are standalone.
Straight out the bag, it's good. I like the nacho straight up, but like I go for ranch too. I go for ranch as well. But just classic orange nacho
Orange
cheese.
fingers.
Orange fingers. I'm going for orange fingers. That's my first pick.
All right.
What do you got?
All right. So since I'm going to count yours as nacho Doritos, right? Since that was the first one you said, because my first draft was Cool Ranch. I was going
Cool
other
Ranch?
side. Yeah, I was going full on Cool
I'll
Ranch
allow
Doritos.
it. I'll
You'll
allow it. I'll allow
I think
it.
they're.
You,
I mean,
you
I
can
feel
go
like
ranch.
they're same shape,
Yeah,
totally different snacking experience.
different, very different flavor profile. But I think I preferred nacho over Cool Ranch.
Okay, I'm a Cool Ranch man, especially when you get to the Mega Cool Ranch one, because you know it's somewhere in the bag. There's always one that has way too much seasoning on it and kind of like burns your mouth a little bit.
I like
that's
that.
oh, it's so good. That's the
and
one I hunt for it.
Dude, at the very bottom of the bag, when all the like the good full chips are gone, it's just like the crumble. I call it the shake, the shake of the
Yeah, you
bag,
get the-
right?
yeah.
Dude, and just pop that, just drain that into my mouth. Oh, I love eating the shake, man.
Oh,
all
it's
the
best.
salt.
It's the best experience.
Oh.
You feel your blood pressure just skyrocket.
Ooh,
You're like,
it's
oh,
the best.
I can't have a physical like anytime soon. They're gonna tell me I'm dying.
So much sodium. Oh, I love it though. But no, I approve of your first pick. So with the first pick,
right.
I went nacho cheese. You went Cool Ranch. So
Cool
I'm gonna go salsa verde. No, I'm kidding. I'm not. It's all Doritos draft.
Just the Doritos draft.
Listen, I'm gonna get so much heat for saying that I like Funyuns, but I like Funyuns. I'm not drafting Funyuns because I need the votes, so I'm not gonna go Funyuns. I have weird taste in chips, dude. Bro, I grew up Asian, and we have these shrimp chips, which I'm sure people are like, get the F out of here with your shrimp.
They are actually really good.
You like that?
Yes. I've had shrimp chips. I've had what did I have the other day? I had grilled squid chips
oh man,
that were
you're like that's my
unbelievable.
childhood.
They were unbelievable.
Oh
They
my
were so
gosh.
good.
Yeah, I'm sure people who are like, culturally not aware, all right? Shrimp chips are what's up, man. Shrimp chips are what's up.
Take a
Give it a
trip to
shot.
an Asian supermarket or just like an ethnic supermarket and just go to the chip aisle and buy all the stuff you don't recognize and just have a chip party.
Bro.
Like buy stuff with weird stuff on the cover of it and it's probably going to be delicious. Like 90% shot.
Make me so happy that you've tried that. People on the podcast probably think we're freaks right now, but no. Don't knock it till you've tried it.
Shrimp
Give it a
chips,
shot.
squid
Shrimp
chips.
bro.
So
Let's
good.
go. We're gonna go more American though.
Oh,
For this next pick. I'm gonna go. I don't know if we're gonna like this. I like salt and vinegar chips. I like the tang. I like how it burns on the tongue. I like salt and vinegar chips. It was an acquired taste. I initially did not like that, but I like salt and vinegar chips. I'm gonna go salt and vinegar.
My wife's a big salt and Vinny fan. Not me, sir.
No.
Position
I like
number
the kettle,
2.
the
I
kettle
am
version
gonna
of it.
go classic sour cream and onion Lay's.
Okay. Here's the thing. It's a good pick. I had a problem when I was a kid where I had sour cream and onion chips, and I promptly threw up. And in my head, I attribute. I just attribute me having that experience with sour cream and onion. And it's not bad. It's a good chip. I just don't like it anymore. It just makes me nauseous now. It's just Weird.
I couldn't drink Bailey's for like 3 or 4 years because I got a stomach flu immediately. Like around Christmas, we were drinking like, you know, you'd have like Bailey's, like a hazelnut thing or whatever.
Yeah.
I promptly got a stomach virus and couldn't even smell it without gagging. So I completely understand.
Yeah,
so
that's just
solid
how
chip,
it
but
be.
we'll keep it away from you.
Yeah, you keep that away from me. But I'll acknowledge it's a solid chip. But that's one of those variants though, where I'm like, where you know, a baked version. That's what's up. The regular version is too oily.
Solid. They're solid.
Oh gosh. Maybe it's too basic, but I'm gonna round up the draft with just good old fashioned barbecue. I like barbecue chips. I think it's a solid pick. I think it's
any particular variation?
I
Kettle barbecue, Lay's barbecue.
I always
barbecue.
I tend to go with the kettle because I like that ultra crunch. But for this, I like just the straight up just Lay's regular barbecue. Like it's when we're at like, you know, summer parties and you're doing like burgers or whatever, I'm always reaching for the barbecue.
Chip, man.
Oh, I love it, man. Great alongside sandwiches. It's a great side. But oh yeah. Well, fun fact, real quick, a little tangent here. A buddy of mine, he's from the Netherlands, and when I was working in New York, he was a good buddy of mine, and we would get like Subway sandwiches or whatever for lunch. And he'd be like, how come you guys are always, there's like chips with your sandwich? Like, that's our side. Like, that's just how it is.
Right.
Like, it's chips, you know, you eat burger and fries, you know.
This is
sandwich and
America.
chips. This is America, bro. Get used to it. And he was just like, that's just not how it was where I'm from. He's from, he calls it a village. We call it a town. He's like a smaller village outside of like Amsterdam. And he's just like, yeah, like for us culturally, like we just, if you want to have a sandwich, you know, a little baguette and a little, you know, cheese on it or whatever, he's like, that's it. That's it. It's all you do. Chips was like a bigger deal for him growing up. Like, and when they would eat it, it would be like a big bag. There were like the small little bags of chips. Like, it wasn't a thing for him.
Oh, the snack size ones didn't exist?
Yeah, So I don't know. I might be like way off with this, but like that was him telling me his experience. And I was always just so fascinated by that. I'm like, bro, America is so awesome.
Although I do think about it, and like when we went to France for like a week, and when you would go and get food, you would go to like a sandwich shop, but like a lot of places weren't open for lunch anyways, or if it was lunch, it was really light. So you would get like a ham and cheese sandwich or something really, really light. And there was never really a side. I didn't even think about this until you mentioned that, but it's literally just like you order your sandwich, you get your sandwich, and you usually have like a coffee or something, and then that's it.
Yeah.
It's not like, go pick a bag of chips and get a soda and do this and do that. And it was like, everything was like extra.
Yeah.
And there was like nothing really on the side.
Yeah, I know. I think it's now that we've just grown up with it. I do believe that it's kind of a uniquely American thing, which probably attributes to why we're so unhealthy. We're so huge. We're so terribly unhealthy, guys.
Here's the thing. You can go to Cookout here, and if you go to Cookout, you can get chicken nuggets or a corn dog as your side, along with your shake and your cheeseburger. So like I don't have to get fries. I can get 6 chicken nuggets instead of French fries.
Right.
Or I get chicken nuggets and French fries because this is America, and if I want to be 900 pounds by next week, I can be 900 pounds by next week. And
those apple slices that are on the menu, no. That's just a political thing.
Yeah, that's just
I just ignore that.
Food pyramid guidelines. Nobody wants those.
So I went nacho cheese Doritos. And then what did I go with after that?
You went
I went salt and vinegar,
Cool Ranch, salt and vinegar,
and then I finished. And then you went sour cream, and then I finished it with barbecue.
And you finished with barbecue. I'm gonna go north of the border. Again, I grew up not too far from Canada, a couple hours away. So we're gonna go a little far north to one of the most underrated chips I think of all time. If you're not familiar with Canada. And that is the all dressed.
I have
an all dressed chip.
I have no clue what that is.
Baby.
What is that?
So all dressed is a mix of like all the flavors.
Oh.
So it's like, I think it's a mix of barbecue, salt and vinegar, and something else. There's
really,
there's
salt
like
and vinegar
7
is a very strong taste.
but
it's
all,
in there.
It's all blended together into one super chip.
Yo, that is.
I'm telling you, go on Amazon.
I would be
now,
down.
Order yourself a bag of just all dressed chips if you can find them.
That's a Canadian thing.
Yeah, like ketchup chips used to be exclusively in Canada too, and so whenever we would cross the border into Canada, we would like pick up a bunch of ketchup chips and like bring them back for people.
Yeah. I've heard
all
of those.
dressed was a thing too,
dude.
Yeah,
so, okay,
all dressed was like purely Canadian.
That's not the name of the brand. That's just the name of the flavoring.
Yeah, it's like Lay's. It's like a Lay's, like a Ruffles or whatever, and it's all dressed.
Okay, so interesting thing about like Lay's, right? They produce different chips for different regions, right? But what I've learned is that the American palate is so different in that we require way more flavoring and way more fake and way more sodium than others. That if you have
salt,
we do. It's like bad, but it is what it is. But if you have the same like Lay's in a different country, it's gonna have a slightly different flavor profile because they're made to be different, because they just don't they suit the palate of different regions, of different places. And for us, we've got a little extra of the salt, of the heat of everything. I mean, we have Takis here, man. Takis should not be legal, bro.
Takis should not be illegal.
There's blue Takis. What
Takis
is that?
have dyes in them that are illegal in like 47 countries, but like
no joke,
this is the
man.
U.S. and we can do whatever.
What is that gonna do to my poop? What is that gonna do to my stool?
I mean, it can't be any worse than Oops All Berries.
What's it called again? All season? Wait, what is it?
All dressed.
All dressed.
All dressed. Yeah. So you can get after it, and they're
I'm into that.
Amazon $14.80, imported from Canada.
I would try that. I would be down to give that a shot.
Our neighbors to the north have invented one of the greatest potato chips of all time,
and
I don't know how it's not like more popular down here, because you go like Vermont, New Hampshire, upstate New York, and you'll start to see them up there. Like I have family in far northern Maine, you'll see them all over up there because they're just like a rock's throw from Canada, but all over in Canada.
Have you tried like dill chips?
Dill pickle, yeah, I have had a couple of those. They have dill pickle kettle chips down here, which are pretty solid. But I'm still partial to the jalapeno ones.
They're kind of, I don't know, they kind of mimic. They fall along the lines of the salt and vinegar variety for me, but with just a little bit more of that dill flavor, which I'm like, it's fine. It's not my favorite, but I don't hate it. So, no, I do like the all flavors, like bagels. Like I love everything bagels. Like where it's not just like poppy seed, like it's got all the things. It's got a very unique flavor. And we've got like a Trader Joe's nearby, and they have like, it's called like everything but the bagel seasoning, where it's just like that seasoning that goes around there. And I'll do like an avocado toast. Well, I'll do just a little toast, avocado spread, and then some of that seasoning on it. And it's a good little snack. It's actually pretty healthy too. So
real solid snack.
Anyway, man, do you have any closing thoughts here before we finish? Final recap, though. I had nacho cheese, salt and vinegar, barbecue. Ben had,
Cool Ranch. What was my second one? I had Cool Ranch, sour cream and onion, and all dressed.
There you go. You let us know on the YouTubes, or I'll also throw up a poll on the IG. And you guys let us know. And if you have funny comments about how terrible we are with our chip taste, let us know.
How terrible our taste is. That's fine. If you want to berate us in the comment, we're there for it.
Well, thank you guys for watching or listening. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you guys this hour and 13 minutes. Boy, we've been talking for an hour and 13 minutes, man. This is kind of wild.
Man.
Yeah. But we'd really appreciate a review so we can tick up those charts up in Brazil. And we'd also just love any sort of feedback or any sort of ideas or requests that you have. The chip draft was actually a suggestion from someone in the comments, and we ran with it. So if you have anything to share, please let us know. And we appreciate your listening. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.